Hi, everyone. Morning and welcome to First Things First. I'm Jenna Wolfe. That's the Hall of Famer Cris Carter. This is Nick Wright. What did I miss in the 1 second that I turned my head
Cris
to open
Carter,
the show?
Turn this way, brother. Good morning, man. How are you? Nothing. You were totally professional and perfect. I'm laughing at the doofus across the table.
My phone was messing.
That's all. That's all. We're just talking to Siri a bit. Good morning, everybody.
Got a great show for you today. Yet more football to talk about. Tom Brady chiming in on Antonio Brown. Drew Brees gave Deshaun Watson a lesson on comebacks, but we got to start out in Oakland. Man, if I could do the voice, I would, but you got to imagine John Gruden gave us a little Antonio who last night. Raiders taking the win against Denver. It wasn't great. Without AB, 24-16. Derek Carr, very good in his season debut, 22 of 26, 259 yards. Wasn't sacked once after going down 51 times last year. Rookie Josh Jacobs added 113 yards of total offense and 2 touchdowns. After the game, John Gruden was asked about what could have been with AB. Take a listen.
As much as people talk about it, I mean, my God. I mean, I feel like someone's smashing my temple on the side of the head. Get over it, man. It's over. You know, we were good the preseason without him. You know, we're going to be fine without him. And we wish him the best. But, you know, we gave it a shot. And now New England gets their turn. Good luck to them. But I just can't, I can't deal with it anymore, really. Sorry.
Makes his bed, doesn't want to lie in it. CC, I'll start with you. You think Gruden and the Raiders bounce back from this entire Antonio Brown saga?
Well, the Raiders being a good football team is good for the NFL. It's good for the brand. So I'd like to be able to see the Raiders if they were competitive. I'd like to see them play some good football. I'd like to be able to see, as John Gruden promised when he came out of retirement from the TV booth, that he would develop Carr as a quarterback. He actually said things like, I'm here for you, brother.
Right. He's the best quarterback I've ever coached, I've ever been around.
Right. Or in the pre-draft stuff, he was very excited about it. So I hope they do play a good brand of football. But I don't think John Gruden and his brand, after watching Hard Knocks and watching what went on with Antonio, Gruden's got to make up his mind. Is he going to be a football coach or is he going to be a TV star? Because you can't do both. And in the Hard Knocks, the reason why they didn't show a bunch of football, because there wasn't a whole bunch of football going on. It looked like John Gruden was auditioning for his next gig, going back and calling games. The whole Antonio thing, it was a total fiasco, and because of him. All right? You let quality people leave your locker room. And that's one of my biggest problems with Amari Cooper, who he is as a football player, who he is as a man, who he is as a professional. Khalil Mack, he tried to say Khalil Mack didn't want to be there. Well, okay, so you signed up for a double portion of AB. I traded a third and a fifth, and that doesn't even tell you the third I traded the year before for Pittsburgh for Martavius, who is suspended from the league. So these draft picks, they do mean something. As you can see on their defense, they do have some good young talent. Offensively, they look like they did have a good game plan, one of the better game plans that since Gruden's been there in a little over a year. But I don't think John Gruden, like, people are going to start getting on to him. Like, you need to be into football and trying to be this disciplinarian that you're not. We saw that with AB. So I hope the team does. I hope the team, that's a good start to the season after everything that they went through. But to try to say that that wasn't a distraction for those other guys who are trying to make a career out of playing football, he's not being honest again.
Well, so, listen, for the way the Raiders recover from this is very simple. Do what you did last night. Do it repeatedly. Derek Carr was fantastic. The rookie Josh Jacobs had a game we haven't seen from a first game for a player in the NFL since LaDainian Tomlinson. 100 yards from scrimmage, 2 touchdowns. Cleveland Farrell, one of those draft picks.
Yep.
He had a sack, a guy that when he was taken in the top 5, people were like, ooh, that seems like a bit of a reach. But, hey, first week, 1 sack, good job by him. Those are the things the Raiders can do, and they have a great opportunity next week. Win your home game against the Kansas City Chiefs, and the narrative really changes on how good the Raiders can be this season. But for John Gruden specifically, to me, he's going to have to go through something of a reinvention because his brand was hard-nosed, disciplined guy. That is the person he tried to present publicly that he was. That mask has been torn away, and I do not think that you can get back to it.
Which part tore the mask away? What specifically tore it away?
In every reaction he had to Antonio Brown.
The
good cop, bad cop in Oakland, The bad cop had to be Mike Mayock because John Gruden was permanently. This is the old parenting tip of you can't be your kids' friends. You have to be your kids' parent. And this is a struggle for a lot of parents as kids get older. It's something Cris talks about all the time that you talk with Duran and Monterey. Like, I ain't your friend. I love you. We can be friendly, but I have a job here. John Gruden, even up to and including when Antonio was no longer on the team, when Antonio had recorded him and had really just tried to sabotage Mike Mayock, he said, I think Antonio's misunderstood. I think he's a really good guy.
Most misunderstood person I've ever met.
Right.
And met a lot of people, Coach.
Right. The most misunderstood person I've ever met. That was the exact quote. And I think your question, C, does he want to be a football coach or a TV star? When you said it, it crystallized to me to a degree. Who's the best football coach in the NFL without any question?
Belichick.
1 through 32, Belichick. If we were ranking football coaches 1 through 32 in the NFL, who would be the absolute worst television star of them all?
Belichick.
Right. So these are two jobs that don't always, in fact, very often, not only do they not go hand in hand, they are juxtaposed to each other. It takes to be a great leader of men, a great football coach in today's NFL, a lot of those skills are not. I'll take another guy who I think is quite good on TV and was hit and miss as a coach, Rex Ryan. Maybe a lot of the guys who have been very good on television in media have not been necessarily as good of football coaches as they have been personalities. And so I do wonder what John Gruden wants to be and what he is best suited to be. But I think the Antonio Brown fiasco is the exact right word that you use, see, that is AB came out looking the worst. But a close second to me is John Gruden. And the only person who came out looking better was Mike Mayock, who, not shockingly, has been the one of the three, to say the least. He did that one little, hey, guys, I'm talking to you for 20 seconds today. You're either in or you're out. I'll update you on AB later. And he talked one other time. And aside from that, he's been behind the scenes. But I think it's going to be tough for Gruden to change the way people view him as far as, how authentic is he after what we saw with Antonio?
So that's our commentary. But what if you're a player in that locker room and you look at your head coach who gave this guy who was definitely a distraction, chance after chance, and fully supported him? How do you bounce back and become the disciplinarian that you want to be, or the coach that these players want to be after what they've seen?
Right. I always tell guys in the locker room, you got to think of a number of things to play for. This business is difficult, the practices are difficult, and the games are even more difficult. The scrutiny, most people aren't built for it. Now, you can pick things. You can pick your family. You can pick the money. You can pick another fame, all kinds of things. But you can't never play for a coach. You can't never play for that coach. So in Gruden, he's got to be able to establish that, listen, guys, I can help you in this business of professional football. But as far as controlling the locker room, things like that, as far as investing in character, trying to create a culture, I don't believe John Gruden knows how to create a culture, because you do not let Khalil Mack, I don't care if he was a criminal. Khalil Mack is going to stay on my football team. Amari Cooper, a gem of a human being, hard worker. I let these guys go, and I invest in what went on with AB, and you're supposed to do your homework on AB. You would have known all that stuff was out there on Pittsburgh. So trying to play for a coach, these guys are trying to survive. Last night, all that, they're not playing for the coach. They playing for each other. All the guys that were in the locker room, that's why they tried to keep AB around, because it was going to be better for them. It had nothing to do with Gruden and everything.
All right, we'll talk a lot more about this coming up. But on the other side, another game last night, Drew Brees and the Saints marching back to take out the Texans. Next on FS1. You can always check us out on the Fox Sports channel on SiriusXM. We'll be right back. Are you ready for what's ahead? You can't always predict the future, but you can game plan for it. Generations of families and businesses have harnessed the power of Pacific to help them reach their unique goals. Whether you need to save money to meet your needs, ensure your family is protected, or make sure you don't run out of money, Pacific Life has a variety of financial solutions that can help. Pacific Life counts more than half of the 100 largest U.S. companies as its clients and has been named one of the 2019 world's most ethical companies by the Ethisphere Institute. Protecting what matters most to people for 150 years and counting, that's the power of Pacific. Ask a financial professional about how Pacific Life can help you game plan for your future, or visit www.pacificlife.com. Welcome back. We'll get to Drew Brees in just a second. But first, Northern Iowa receiver Deion McShane making a tough catch, rolls off the defender.
Oh, keep running.
Keep running, my friend, and that's good for a touchdown.
Oh, that's very alert right there. Landed on top of him. Did a little squat right there. A little lower body strength, Jenna.
Yeah, that's right.
Plus, dude, only like 5'6". He low to the
You
ground.
have to get up too high. Monday Night Football,
this was
Deshaun
scary.
Watson picking up big yardage here. Isn't quite satisfied. Decides to go airborne for 6.
This was after Bill O'Brien spent 2 timeouts trying to challenge a play. Deshaun bails him out on 4th down, but then goes to blue medical tent after this. This was a scary one, seeing Deshaun take the hit and then the tough landing. Great play by him.
And it's something to watch going forward. Banged up. He's got a lower back like contusion, which typically causes muscle spasm. Let's see how he's going forward. But in week number 1, even though he had an unbelievable game, let's see how the wear and tear.
Look at
More
this.
from this one. Will Fuller making a tough catch with everyone all over him.
3 really good deep threats on this team. We know DeAndre Hopkins can do everything. Will Fuller, when he's been out there, has been a potent deep threat with Deshaun Watson. And then you saw Kenny Stills, what we thought would have been, could have been, should have been the game-winning touchdown. Will Fuller, though, that's a great adjustment, man.
Yeah, if they can keep everyone healthy, they should have an all-out assault on defensive back. I believe Kenny Stills is an underrated part of that trade. Everyone talks about Tunzel, the left tackle, but Kenny Stills is a quality wide receiver. We thought he had the game winner last night. And Will Fuller, can he stay healthy? Because he is the deep threat that makes everything
All right,
there in the Texans
get
go.
to the game itself, which was a tight one throughout. 43 seconds left. Texans down 27-21. One last chance for Deshaun Watson. Takes a big hit while delivering a beautiful strike to the recently acquired Kenny Stills. The 37-yard touchdown put the Texans up by 1. Drew Brees would have one more chance. 20 seconds left. Brees to Michael Thomas. That's good. 6 seconds left. Brees to Ted Ginn. That's good. That leaves 2 seconds left for Will Lutz. Lutz from 58 yards out, and he splits the uprights for the season-opening New Orleans Saints win. Big win for them. Here's quarterback Drew Brees after the game.
I felt like we did a really good job. You know, we practiced that, I think we felt like we knew exactly what we needed to do in order to give ourselves a chance to win.
Great teams like this, you know, playing on the road, a great quarterback in Drew Brees, you got to be able to, you know, put the game away. And we had the opportunities, but we didn't do that.
For our offense to give us the lead with whatever it was, 40 seconds left, and to not win that game, I mean, it's bad football by us on defense, and so we will take 100% of that blame, as we should.
This was a great game, and especially right down the stretch. See, what do you think the key was to this one?
Well, one of the keys was I was a little disappointed in Romeo Crennel. He's talking about a 72-year-old defensive coordinator of the Texans, that he didn't have some type of pressure, realizing down and distance, once Drew Brees gets the ball, you can't sit back in the zone. You know they have one timeout, so I understand why initially. But at some point, you have to either try to put some pressure on him or some change of pace. Because basically, if you get across the 50, I didn't know their kicker could kick one from 58, but now the whole NFL knows. But I thought they could have been more aggressive. You have that big drive by Deshaun, and you get the lead. And then you come back and allow Drew Brees just to dink and dunk, work his way up the field to put him in field goal position. So Romeo Crennel, at 72, he's the oldest coach in the NFL as far as a defensive coordinator or a head coach. Like, you should have come up with something to be able to secure that win.
Because Drew Brees was perfect in those final 37 seconds. 37 seconds, one timeout, understanding he needed a minimum of 35 yards. Will Lutz's career long was a 57-yarder, so let's call it 58. He's got to get 35 yards. He goes one play, 15-yard spike. Another play, 11-yard spike. The play we showed you, timeout, 9-yard spike. 9 plus 11 plus 15. Oh, that's 35 yards.
Executed beautifully.
You got exactly where your minimum threshold was for applause. Now, that field goal looks like it might have been good for 63, but they knew what his limit was in pregame. They knew what his career long was, and he got them there. And the finish of the game was wild for Brees to have the wherewithal after it looked like they had won the game at the 2-minute warning on 3rd and 2. 3rd and 2, backed up on their own end. Brees throws his longest pass of the night, 44 yards out to midfield. Now you just need 2 first downs and you win the game. They only got 1 first down, kick a field goal. Deshaun then did what we showed you. But for the Saints, see, I want people to understand how important this win was. 0-2, 0-3, 0-3, 0-2, 0-1. That's the last 5 years how the Saints have started their seasons.
Yes.
They have not won a Week 1 game since 2013. Even the last 2 years when they were really good. How did they start out 2 years ago? Losing 2 games in a row. They lost at Minnesota to start the season. Lost the following week. Last year, a home game to Tampa. Fitzmagic dropped 48 on them. The years they were 7-9, they started out poorly. So for them to steal this win twice, once being down 11 midway through the 3rd, and then again at the end when Deshaun seemingly had stolen the game from them with a great 2-play quick strike drive. This is a great win for New Orleans and maybe something that will start to salve the wound a bit of how last season ended for them, which was as devastating a loss as any team can suffer.
You made such an interesting point yesterday about Tom Brady and how we sort of take it for granted that he put up 341 yards at age 42. But look what Drew Brees is doing at age 40. That last drive was absolutely spectacular. He doesn't look like he's, kind of fainted off in any way, shape, or form. How much can you say about Drew Brees?
Well, I think that we need to recalibrate the quarterbacks. Nick went through a fairly good explanation as far as Tom Brady. No one since George Blanda. But if we don't adjust what we're looking at, the game is easier. The rules are all set up for the quarterback. And these guys are taking care of themselves. They realize they can play as long as they want to be able to play. That's the reason why we have the quality of the quarterback, because we got 5 of them, say, above 35 or so. So having those types of minds playing the game, it ups the quality. Because even though Drew Brees didn't play a whole lot during the preseason, him or Deshaun, you could see these guys were, in some parts of their game, in midseason form. Drew Brees is amazing. And last year, Nick talked about, well, was it the old age, him hitting the wall? I don't think it was old age, because as you go through the season, as teams start to figure you out, we didn't even take into consideration he only had Michael Thomas to throw to. Teddy Ginn was hurt. The other guy was a rookie. So all they had to do was key on Michael Thomas. So last year, when his numbers started to suffer at the end, it was more because they couldn't get to the number of weapons they could get to in last night's game. So I'm looking forward to seeing Drew Brees not only play this year, but I wouldn't be surprised if he played a couple more years.
But I will be honest, watching the first half, I was worried about the analogy I had drawn between Peyton Manning's second to last year and then his final year where he was a shell of himself, where in that second to last year, that final quarter of the season, because in the first half, Drew Brees didn't look like the Drew Brees we had seen last season. He threw a bad red zone interception, took points off the board. Saints only get 3 points.
That wasn't Drew Brees' fault. If you watch the replay, this is the first time he's played a game with Latavius Murray. He signals for him to go out. Latavius Murray's in a scramble rule. Instead of going to the sideline or going to the back of the end zone, he goes back in the field of play.
Okay.
And when he went back into the field of play, Drew Brees threw it, and Merciless was able to get his head around to intercept it. So when you watch the replay, you'll be able to say, oh, man, why Drew Brees? But he's playing with the guy he wasn't familiar with and tried to direct him in a different direction.
Well, I'm not going to lie to you nor the audience. I did not realize that until you just mentioned it there. So I saw 3 points, a red zone interception, a 71 rating. It was nerve-wracking if you're high on the Saints this year. But in the second half, he was perfect. I mean, 80% passing, a 143 rating, 2 touchdowns, no picks. We mentioned those 3. For him to execute that last drive with nobody ever getting out of bounds, they didn't stop the clock by getting guys out of bounds. He knew, okay, I'm going to save my timeout for the kick. I can get guys. I have the system in place to where even if they go down inbounds, we will get to the line. We won't have a formation violation, which is a 10-second runoff, which is a killer in that spot. That was a savvy veteran quarterback, and you continue to see the growth of Alvin Kamara as a receiver. The Saints are still kind of looking for that number 2. Remember last year they signed Des Bryant. They were so desperate for a number 2, but Michael Thomas picked up where he left off. 10 catches, 123 yards, super high production. And by the way, I don't know if it was more about the Texans' O-line, which is still seemingly in shambles, or the Saints' D-line, but the Saints got more sacks yesterday than any team in the NFL in Week 1. They got to Deshaun Watson repeatedly. If that pass rush is that aggressive throughout the season, Saints are going to be very tough to beat.
All right, Deshaun Watson and Drew Brees both trading heroics yesterday, with the Saints coming out on top. Coming up, will anyone be able to stop the Patriots now that AB has officially signed? Talk about that next on First Things First. Time for us to go viral. Three-time Pro Bowler DeAndre Hopkins picked up where he left off last season with 2 touchdowns on Monday Night Football. And yesterday, this image of the goals Hopkins wrote down in the Texans' weight room surfaced. He wants 2,000 yards, no drops, and the NFL record for touchdowns. See? Pretty lofty goals. What do you think?
No, I like it. I like career high. It's going to be hard to get 2,000 yards. I like that he's trying to improve on the things he's done. He gets too many targets to have a realistic goal to have no drops. I would try to have under 3 drops. My best season, I think I had 3 drops and almost 200 targets. That's the year I think I tied the NFL record.
Then he's going to have to pitch a perfect game the rest of the year.
No, that's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen because yesterday, unfortunately, he had 2 definite drops and a third possible. Now, he and your guy Fitzy, the 2 best pairs of hands in the NFL.
Yeah, top 3, make a list.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Michael Thomas.
Okay.
All right. He's number 3. He dropped 1, too. So the drops were in the building last night. Nuke is number 2. Larry Fitzgerald, seniority. You know, we'll take age before beauty. He's number 1.
I would say of those 3, the 2,000 yards might be the most plausible, even if it's not going to happen. He ain't going to have no 24 touchdowns. That would be the NFL record. Randy got that in 07 with the Patriots. Jerry Rice got 22 in a 12-game strike-shortened season, which is unbelievable. And so 24 touchdowns isn't going to happen. 2,000 yards, maybe. He has a chance. No, okay. No. So he's going to go 0 for 3 is what you're telling us?
No, not with that offensive line, man. Quarterback just got sacked again.
Yeah. But DeAndre, man, I'm glad he's finally getting his justice.
And he's got some help with the other receivers.
They sorry to squash your dreams, DeAndre. Nothing's going to happen.
No, he dropped him the first one.
Stories to start your morning. No AB, no problem for the Oakland Raiders as they beat the Broncos in their Monday night season opener. 24-16 was your final on that one. Derek Carr was sharp. He completed 85% of his passes, threw for 259 yards. Cris, what impressed you most about the Raiders' win last night?
I'm glad they could come together because if you watch Hard Knocks and everything that was coming out of there from a media standpoint, you would think that is this team going to be ready? Mentally, they got locked in. You got to be able to give their captains and in Carr a lot of credit because he played spectacular. He threw the type of football in the game last night. The reason why he was considered MVP a number of years ago because he can throw the football. He can throw the football. Can he do it on a consistent basis? That's been part of the problem.
I've been critical and skeptical of Carr. I've speculated whether or not he'll be the Raiders quarterback when they get to Vegas. He was sensational last night. That was to me, the best football game I've seen him play because I think the Broncos are going to have a good defense again. Like, we haven't seen them throughout the year yet, but I think at the end of the year, they're going to have a top 8 defense. And those 2 rookies, Clelin Ferrell, the kid from Clemson, who they took in the top 5, gets a sack. Josh Jacobs, 100 yards from scrimmage, 2 rushing touchdowns in his NFL debut. 2 of those guys, well, Jacobs they gotten as a pick from one of the trades.
The third pick is the safety from Washington State, too, going to be a good football player.
Absolutely. So some of the young players played well. Carr played great, and they get the win. That's a great night
if he keeps throwing like that, he'll be able to pay off the contractor for that house next to Gruden. Him and Gruden are building a house next to each other in Vegas.
All right, Saints needed an epic final drive. No, it's good that we know that. And a final drive to pull out their Monday night win against the Texans. Drew Brees was up to the task, took his team 35 yards in 35 seconds to set up a Will Lutz 58-yard game-winning field goal. Made it look easy. Nick, how impressive was Brees on that game-winning drive?
Veteran savvy, perfect. I mean, you needed to go 35 yards in 36 seconds, and he did exactly that.
You have to be able to press the slots. If you watch him and Romeo Crennel, the defensive coordinator, man, as long as he's been coaching, he pressed outside, but if you don't press the slots, and with them having a timeout left, they're just going to dink and dunk 3 3 completions down the field, game winner. They should have been more aggressive in their defensive calls those last 3 plays.
And real quick, when we think of the Saints season ending, we think of the bad call, but it was a near 60-yard field goal by the kicker for the Rams that sent the Rams to the Super Bowl. If you remember it, the gutsy call in overtime.
Yeah.
Will Lutz hit a 58-yarder to win the game last night, man. Kickers in 2019, 50 is nothing, and 55 is becoming relatively commonplace. Greg Zuerlein, thank you. Couldn't remember
On to the Cowboys now. The team reportedly working to complete a deal with Dak Prescott, quote, sooner rather than later. A 400-yard passing game with 4 touchdowns and a perfect passer rating this past weekend will certainly give Dak some leverage. Nick Wright, how important is it for the Cowboys to get this deal done quickly?
I think it's more important for Dak than the Cowboys, but I was shocked Dak took the field without getting the deal done this Sunday. Not that he would sit out the game. I just thought he would end up accepting what the Cowboys' last offer was, because you mentioned yesterday, he's playing a game where you saw Nick Foles in the early window snap his collarbone,
yes,
and he could have gotten hurt. He could have. So I think it will get done.
Patty Mahomes got Nick. Deshaun got Nick last night.
Absolutely.
You're not beyond getting injured.
And so it would be even more surprising to me if he takes the field week 2 without the deal getting done, but I thought it would have been done Saturday.
I think it's just the minor details, the guarantees and everything. I think he's in the driver's seat now. Zeke's in camp. They've dished out 3 new contracts. He's sitting around. He's going to get paid, but, the details are very, very important as far as the guarantees. And let's not forget, he's never been compensated at a high level.
No, and a great way to start the season for Dak Prescott. All right, on to the Browns and Baker Mayfield. A season opener to forget on Sunday. That after getting beat up on both sides of the ball by the Titans. A 30-point loss for a team laden with sky-high preseason expectations. Here's what first-year head coach Freddie Kitchens had to say about his team's struggles.
We have to refrain from doing right now is overreacting. It's 1 game in a 16-game schedule. We're very disappointed in the lack of discipline that we showed, the loss of composure that we showed at times, and just overall not doing a good enough job from a coaching perspective and a player perspective to get the job done. We identify those problems, then we rectify those problems. That's how you get better as a football team, and I fully expect that we have the men in the locker room that's going to do that.
I feel like that's a message Freddie Kitchens needed to tell his locker room after the game, after what we heard from some of the players. But is Freddie Kitchens right that the Browns shouldn't overreact to just 1 loss?
You shouldn't overreact to any loss. That is one thing about the NFL season, that the players, the coaches, it's always a constant theme. Don't look back and don't look ahead. There's enough work to be done right now. And it just starts with a good work week. Just start day by day. This team does not know how to win, and they definitely, as we can see in the football game and in the press conference afterwards, they don't know how to lose. And there's something to be said to being a good loser. And I'm gonna confess.
Not a good loser.
No, I ain't into losing. I ain't into people who lose. You know what I'm saying?
He's not into losers.
No, but you weren't.
I'm really not. My wife tells me that all the time. I'm not into losers. I said, hey, that's all right. Let me get my act together then. Because the truth of the matter is, it's tough to stay focused week after week. And when you start looking ahead, you start overreacting, then one game becomes more important than the other. So then the coach, he's got to lie to you. Oh, man, we're playing Pittsburgh. It's a bigger. But, Coach, you told us the Tennessee game is still 1 game. So trying to be consistent is a theme of coaches. Freddie's learning on the job.
Right.
He's got a bunch of high-strung young players in the locker room who haven't won together. So, man, this is traumatic. When you think about all the hype on Cleveland and they lose the home opener, if I'm a fan, I'm saying, man, what's the difference in this team in the last 15 years? So, yes, don't go on a 2-game losing streak. They need to get it nipped in the bud on Monday night, and they will face a challenge in the Jets, especially in the Jets' front 7 going against that offensive line. But Freddie Kitchens is right, Jenna.
So I'll tell you what happened in this game that does not concern me moving forward, and then I'll tell you things that did. What doesn't concern me moving forward is they're 1 of 10 on 3rd down. I don't think that's going to happen again. Baker throwing in desperation mode, even before he really had to be in desperation mode, beginning of the 4th quarter. Some awful interceptions. I don't think that's going to happen again. But the things that I am worried about, those 18 penalties. Now, Chris, you and I tend to, I think, disagree on this a bit as far as how much are penalties a reflection of the coach. But I know this. Belichick in his time with the Patriots, they are never one of the most penalized teams in football. The best coached teams typically are not the highest penalized teams in football. We don't yet know how much that was signal or noise with 18 penalties in Freddie Kitchens' first game as a head coach, but I'll be watching for that. But more importantly, the things we do know are this. The Browns' biggest concern was their offensive line, and the offensive line got mollywopped in week 1. Since Baker Mayfield has taken over as a starter, the Browns have played 7 games against teams that finished last year with a winning record. They're now 1-6 in those 7 games, with the 1 win coming against a Ravens team that was still starting Joe Flacco. In those 7 games, Baker's been sacked 19 times and turned the ball over 14 times. Those are real concerns. Those are not week 1 outliers. Those are not, throw it away, don't worry about it, bury the film. Those are things I believe they need to get shored up. Now, I think the defense will continue to improve, and I think Baker, this will be the worst game he has all year. I think the Browns will still be fine, and I think they will bounce back Monday night, to your point, against a desperate Jets team, because a Jets team that might have had a worse loss than the Browns did, just the way it happened. But those are some real concerns for them moving forward, the sacks and the turnovers against quality opponents.
Yes, I believe the Freddie Kitchens, watch out this week. Greg Williams is running the defense for the Jets. He knows a lot of intel on the offense of the Browns.
Yes, he does.
Now, you talking about, do you think it was bad when they left the field against the Titans? You leave Monday night, New York City, and be 0-2. Oh, watch how the house will be on fire immediately.
Must watch Browns-Jets Monday night. It'll be a good one. All right, moving on. Yesterday, Antonio Brown officially signed on the Patriots' dotted line. Tom Brady and AB spent part of Monday together, taking steps towards building some chemistry. Yes, arguably the greatest quarterback in NFL history. Also, yes, arguably the greatest undersized receiver in NFL history. According to Fox Bet, the Patriots are now even bigger favorites to represent the AFC in Super Bowl 54. Nick, is everybody else now competing for just second place in the AFC after this pairing?
My man Chris Carter said this yesterday, and I could not believe it. Listen, the Patriots were both of your guys' picks to go to the Super Bowl before this happened.
Still are.
And so, at the very least, adding Antonio is not going to hurt their standing. I understand for some people the belief was removing Antonio was going to help Pittsburgh with this different situation, and New England be able to cut ties from him if it doesn't work out. But for everyone to be competing for second place, the Patriots would have had to have been so far ahead of whoever that second place team is. And to me, that is patently untrue. We know who the second-place team was last year, quite literally in the AFC, the Kansas City Chiefs. And they had the game won, and the guy lined up offsides, and then it goes to overtime, and they never touched the football. We saw the Chiefs in Gillette, in that stadium, down 2 scores at the half, score 31 second-half points, and take a fourth-quarter lead, and then tie it again in the fourth quarter before the defense could not hold on, and the Patriots won on a last-second field goal. The Patriots-Chiefs were a coin flip to me. They were this close, no matter which side you liked. The idea that now just crown the Patriots, barring a Tom Brady injury, as I think you are barring a spate of massive injuries. I just don't see it, and I was shocked you said.
I just hope they have a quality opponent coming from the NFC. Jenna, you want before I get to you?
Okay.
I was just going to tell you.
This is a wrap.
But the Patriots' offense got better, and the Patriots' defense got better. And
How?
The
How
Patriots.
did the Patriots' defense get better?
Adding more firepower to their offense.
Okay, all right, fine. And
Yes.
they lost their right tackle on Sunday, and they lost their
But
center.
the Chiefs' defense didn't get better.
Okay, well, Jenna,
All right, well, let me put this out there, okay? And this is the reason why, Nick. It's because the way the NFL tournament is set up, all right? Who you think's going to have home field advantage?
I think the Patriots. My preseason pick was the Patriots to have home field.
Okay, just relax. So I'm going to get to your theory. Last year, Kansas City could not stop the Patriots. That was without Josh Gordon. So now I'm getting ready to add Antonio and Josh, and you're scared of the Chiefs secondary.
Correct.
Like, you're scared of them. So there's no way, if that's not your team, you're making a case for anyone, because they're going to be playing in Gillette. They only got to play 2 games. They're going to be at least 14-2. I would like to say 15-1, but they're going to be 14-2 during the regular season. The game they play with Kansas City not going to matter. They're still going to beat them in Gillette. And we know that no one goes to Gillette and wins on a regular basis. So that, to me, is the reason why they end up in Super Bowl 54 in Miami.
Right, and I want to make this clear. It's not like I'm sitting here saying, oh, the Patriots are screwed. They got no chance. But, Jenna, you said the Chiefs' defense didn't get better. To me, we have no reason to believe that. They played poorly in Week 1 against Jacksonville. They added 5 new starters and a defensive coordinator.
Jacksonville's back up.
They didn't play well in Week 1. I understand that. Gardner Minshew diced them up. I said that yesterday. But you would be the first person to say the team you are in Week 1 with 5 new starters and a new coordinator is not the team you're going to be in Week 17.
Yeah, but if you're not that talented, you're not going to get that much better.
Right, but so here's the thing. I actually think the Chiefs' defense in the front does have talent. I think that the nose tackle is Jones, Chris Jones, I almost called him Alex Jones. Chris Jones is about to get $20 million a year. Frank Clark has been a Pro Bowl level player. They added Alex Okafor. I think Steve Spagnuolo will be an improvement on Bob Sutton. So I disagree the idea that we can just flatly say the Chiefs' defense didn't get better. But the offense appears to be exactly what it was last year. And the Chiefs-Patriots last year was this close of a margin in both stadiums, in Gillette and in Arrowhead. So the idea that we can just crown them, and when you say if they weren't my team, see, our friends at Fox Bet do have the Patriots as the favorite, plus 200.
Yes.
The Chiefs are plus 300. They are slight underdogs to the Patriots, but not massive underdogs to the Patriots. So I don't think this is because I'm from Kansas City. I think it's because I saw the game.
Just like
year.
in the AFC Championship, the Chiefs' defense could not get off the field. You can say, oh, well, the guy lined up off field. Well, that's part of the game.
Yep.
I mean, New England does the small things better than anyone else. And they will be a lot better by adding AB. They're going to spread the field. They're going to run a bunch of pick plays, run a lot of zero routes to him. And Kansas City does not have an answer. They can't blitz. They can't play man-to-man. They can't sit back and play zone. That's the reason why New England had the ball. 43 minutes in Arrowhead. So the last 2 times these teams were on the field, 43 minutes.
And the last 2 times they were on the field, they were tied after 60 minutes.
But
and
they don't give out the trophies then.
I get that, see? But the point that it was drastically one-sided, I just totally disagree with. But I just have to ask you one quick question. Because you and Coach Mangini all last week kept repeatedly saying you cannot win in the NFL with guys acting the way Antonio Brown has acted, with guys being characters, not having character. Why all of a sudden is he now a golden ticket for the Patriots?
I had already picked New England before this.
Right.
Antonio is going to have all that time he was talking about call God, he called God and God told him, don't mess with Belichick. All right? You're going to be shocked how he acts from the first day he comes in the door. This is what I have seen through years and years and years. Renegade guys. Oh, he won't make it over there. He thrives over there. That's what's happened. That's the reason why. So they were already my Super Bowl champ, and then they added the second best wide receiver in the league, and because they really have a disciplinarian coach, a guy who's trying to act like a coach instead of trying to act like a TV star, that's the reason why. He getting ready to squeeze the grape, and either going to crush the grape or he going to get wine. No, or he going to get wine out of it. That's what's getting ready to happen. All kids want discipline, and when they get it, they either straighten up or they get out. And watch what he does. Like, you guys are going to be shocked by his overall behavior.
All right, we shall see. But coming up, Drew Brees and the Saints delivering a heartbreaking loss to the Texans. Talk some Monday Night Football next. This is First Things First. And we're here with former Pro Bowl quarterback Carson Palmer.
Good to see you again, man.
Great to have you. Welcome to our family,
Steph
Carson.
told you take a stand. Say something.
That's
Jimmy.
right. I almost said something.
Say something.
Carson, let's talk some football since it's a perfect fit that you are here and we need to make a nice little pivot to actual football. Here we go, Texans and Saints. Drew Brees leading the New Orleans Saints on an impressive last drive. That's to Ted Ginn. Then with 20 seconds left to Mike Thomas for an 11-yard game. 6 seconds left. Brees finds Ginn again, this time to put the team in position for a 58-yard field goal from Will Lutz, who nails it. Drew Brees picks up his 49th career game-winning drive. How impressive. Carson, how impressive is Brees' success at the age of 40?
He's unstoppable. He hasn't slowed down. To continuously do this year after year after year after year. And to come out like that at home and start their season off like that with a last-second win, that's what you need at that age. You need a little bit of, you need something to add a little pep in your step to motivate you each week. So it was great to see them do that.
Nick's our show historian, so he gives us all these numbers. Brady at 42. Man, no one's played as good as Brady did since George Blanda. Blew my mind yesterday. And then we see Drew Brees. Sunday night Brady, Monday night Drew Brees. Carson, I know your brother. He does a lot of training of the quarterbacks coming into and also the veteran quarterbacks. This is what we're going to continue to see? These veteran quarterbacks playing 38, 39, 40, because based on the way the rules are and everything? Should we get used to this?
I think so. I think the quarterback's the most protected position on the field. You cannot pile drive quarterbacks. Every time you see a quarterback get hit now, you see him looking up at the ref for a potential flag every time they're getting hit. So you're going to see him get hit less and less. Guys don't want to get fined. Guys don't want to get kicked out of the game for hitting the quarterback. So you're going to see quarterbacks, and now that with all the, dietary things, all the training things, all the the advantages we have today in 2019, guys are going to continuously play into the 40s, early 40s.
Cris says it all the time. It's never been easier to play quarterback in this league. And he's not talking about compared to Blanda's era or even compared to the beginning of your era. He's talking about like the beginning of your career to the end of your career. I don't know if you thought you were the best quarterback you've ever been in the last couple of years, but the closest you ever came to winning league MVP was your second to last season or third to last season in Arizona. I think statistically your best season, that really great Cardinals team that you had. How different has the game been from when you and Drew and Tom came into the league, which is around the same time, and how it is right now or right when you stopped playing?
Yeah, and I think the main thing for a quarterback is you need reps, you need experience, you need a bunch of situations, down by 6, up by 6, third and long. You need those reps, you need that kind of experience. You look at Drew and you look at Tom and you look at some of these guys that are playing into their late 30s and into their 40s. They have more reps, they have more experience doing it. You're protected more. You're not playing on AstroTurf anymore like CC was back in the day. So you're going to see these quarterbacks having great success at the end of their career.
And real quick, when you said you need the reps, it felt like last night Brees got the ball, 25-yard line, 37 seconds, one timeout. He had already mapped out in his head exactly how that drive had to go because he's probably had almost that exact carbon copy situation before. Maybe not with a kicker who can hit a 58-yarder, but knew exactly where he had to go on the field before it even played out, right?
Well, and he also knew, at the very end of the game, he's been seeing the same looks, the same disguises from the Houston Texans. I'll bet Drew knew his first 3 plays. So he's on the field, it's 2 minute, they're not huddling up, he's calling the plays. He knew exactly what he was going to get to, and he probably knew he was going to throw his number 1 read, when to call the timeout, when to clock it. He's been through that. There's just the reps, repetition, repetition, repetition.
And it's why we say the game has gotten so much easier. It's like you say, Tom Brady, who knows all the answers, so why stop playing at this point? All right, speaking of Tom Brady, let's move on to Antonio Brown, Brady's new receiver. Yesterday, he officially signed with the Patriots, making New England an even heavier favorite to represent the AFC in Super Bowl 54, that according to Fox Bet. Tom Brady and AB spent some time together yesterday, taking steps towards building some chemistry together. Brady also said it'll definitely be a challenge for AB to contribute right off the bat. Carson, we know about that Patriot offense. Sometimes it takes a beat to get used to. It can be complicated. How good can this offense be once AB is up to speed?
It can be great. I don't like the fit. I know you really like him being there. I don't like the fit. He's going to have some great games where he has 10, 11, 12 catches for 160 yards and 2 touchdowns. But then he's going to have some games where he has 3 targets and 2 targets and 5 targets. And he has to be able to give up those catches, give up those touches, and fit into the system. I don't like the fit. I also don't like his fit with Brady. Brady needs precision. He needs a route that's run at 12 yards. Every time a guy runs a curl, it's at 12. Sometimes AB's at 10, sometimes he's at 14. He freestyles it sometimes to get himself open. I don't like that fit with Tom Brady's style.
And the reason with AB doing what he was doing, we had to schedule you because a lot of people just forget what you went through in Cincinnati with the wide receivers that you played with. Now, Carson has always said great things about him. But I remember one time Marvin Lewis called me and said, Cris, man, I believe we can get a championship here. We got a few guys. I want you to come in and talk to the team leaders, maybe give us a couple little helpful little pointers of how this team can come together. I sat down with Carson. I sat down with the other team leaders, too. Chad Ochocinco didn't show up to work that day. So Carson, it was basically me and Carson kicked it. I found out Carson was a great leader, and there was things going on that was out of Carson's control. So as these diva wide receivers, it's not make-believe. We wear the quarterbacks out, and you just don't like the fit because you know Tom and you know what they've operated. But what I've been telling them is you're going to be shocked because of Belichick. All right? He is a disciplinarian, and if you don't have that, the quarterback and the other players in the locker room, they don't have a chance. So I believe in Belichick. I talked to Randy Moss before he went to New England, and he had a different attitude. He didn't like what I had to tell him before he went. But when he stepped into the door at New England, he did everything the right way. I believe AB is going to do that, Carson.
We'll see. I mean, the proof's in the pudding. We'll see. I don't like the fit. I think the social media thing and the Patriot way.
There's no doubt. I totally
set
agree
in his ways. Once you create that monster, which was created in Pittsburgh, it just takes off and runs. You can't then all of a sudden start pulling the reins in. I don't like the fit. I don't like the match. I think it's going to be really interesting over the next month or so to see what happens.
We hear guys say all the time one of the things you said, but I don't know if we've ever had someone explain why it's so important, which is if a route's supposed to run at 12, Tom expects it to be run at 12, and if you run it at 10 or if you run it at 14, it screws the whole process up. As a quarterback, when you can rely on a receiver, even if he doesn't have near the talent of AB, to be where he's supposed to be, what does that do for you? And on the flip side, even if a guy's super talented, if he's not where he's supposed to be, what does that take away from you?
Yeah, I mean, you look at Tom Brady. Tom Brady is operating on level 10 of 10 levels. So pre-snap, if he's got a curl on the right side of the field, he's using his eyes, he's manipulating the defense in order to get the ball to the curl route that's supposed to be run at 12 yards on a certain rhythm and timing. When his eyes and he's manipulating and working his way to that curl, and that curl's not ready to catch the ball because he's going to run it at 15 or 16 yards, or he already ran it at 9 and he's sitting there waiting on the ball, that's when interceptions happen and incompletions happen, and that's not going to fly with Tom.
And what about the subsequent conversation with Tom or with Josh or with Belichick about him not doing that? How do you think he responds to that?
I think he sits in the meeting and goes, yes, sir, yep. And then week 2, week 3, week 4, he gets 2 or 3 targets. He doesn't have any catches, and he's being outshone by Dorsett and Edelman, and that's not going to fly. I don't see it meshing well.
Now, the one thing that I don't like, because the way this contract is situated is he has some tiers. He's got 3 $1.5 million bonuses on catches, yards, and touchdowns.
So his money is tied to his production.
Yeah, so now that doesn't blend into the Patriot way. Last year, Belichick gave Gronk and Brady incentives.
Neither of them met him.
Neither one of them were able to. So, Carson, I respect your opinion. And Carson brings up a lot of good things from the quarterback's perspective. But the only thing that I override it is Belichick. And we're not going to hear about it. One day he'll be gone. It's just like Josh Gordon. What happened? Oh, he must have flunked the drug test because the next day he was gone. The team didn't address it and everything. I do share your same concerns. But right now, because AB is hungry to play football, when you take Nick Saban told me, hey, Cris, I can make kids do things their parents can't make them do. I was like, how's that, coach? Because I got what they want. I got that thing called the football. So I do believe in his love for the game that will be enough to get him back out there. But I do respect what you're saying. You make some valid points.
I hope so, but it's either 15 million or 10 million. And in AB's head, although that $5 million is in incentives, he's thinking he's making $15 million this year because there's no way I'm not going to hit my incentives until he only has 2 targets in week 2 and 3 targets in week 4.
Because Belichick doesn't care. He doesn't care.
No, and the last little thing, Nick, what the wide receiver going into an area before he's ready, that's why Ben was mad about the interception.
The one
when he broke in. He was supposed to take 2 steps, which in turn the DB breaks. The linemen, it makes them break sooner, so everything is off. Carson, tell us what you're here in New York, and we're very, very grateful. This is your second time visiting the show.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. I'm representing FedEx on the NFL Air and Ground Players of the Year award this year. And we're off to a great start. Lamar Jackson, Dak Prescott on the air side, on the ground, Marlon Mack in Indy. So it's going to be a great year. You can vote on NFL.com/Twitter. You can vote, or also vote on NFL's Twitter page. It's going to be an exciting year. Last year, Patrick Mahomes won it. It was really cool to see Saquon won it for the ground. So it's going to be a great year, and I'm really excited to follow it.
Thank you. Thanks for coming off the ranch, man.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Appreciate having you here, Carson.
I thought the Bengals were going to pull off a hell of an upset this week.
That would have been close.
Almost did. All right, we've got to take a break. Much more First Things First right after this.
Appreciate it, man. That's good stuff, baby.
Thank you, man.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Back here, First Things First, time for us to go viral. John Gruden and the Raiders picked up their first win of the season last night against the Denver Broncos. However, Antonio Brown's shadow was still hanging over the team. Derek Carr was asked about AB after the game. Take a listen to this.
We had a good football team even when he wasn't there. We knew if we added him, my goodness, that could be crazy because he's so good as a football player. But he's not here. And when it happened, it was like, okay. Honestly, it wasn't the same feeling when Khalil got traded. I'll just put it at that. It was not the same feeling. It was like, okay, at least the questions are done, right? At least we have answers, right? And it stung as a friend having to see him go somewhere else. But again, I wish Antonio the best. And even if, whatever feelings, I don't even think he has hard feelings towards anybody. He just wanted a different place, right? And so I wish him the best.
You shaking your head, see? What?
Well, if I may real quick, that whole thing from Derek Carr was very impressive. He was impressive before the game, during the game, and after the game. He talked about how he went almost person by person as far as the young players on the team. He wished they were talking about more. I think his ability with Gruden maybe unintentionally taking a leadership step backwards or two, his ability to kind of fill that void could be very important for that team. I was really impressed by Derek Carr yesterday.
Yeah, he didn't have to talk about it, though. I do New England. No need to talk about it. Let's talk about the players are here, talk about the game. Those should be the only questions addressed. And stop being fooled. He ain't your friend. Friends don't do that to friends. If not, man, I just need all enemies. If that's the way friends treat you and everything, that's what I need.
The reason I think it was smart of him to talk about it, was he was asked a question about it. He addressed it for about 2 minutes and basically said, "That's all I'm going to say on it. If you don't address it, they're going to keep trying to ask around it."
I think the team needed some semblance of a transition between what happened and what is happening, so they could put it to bed. It wasn't going to come from Gruden. It was nice to see that Derek Carr was able to step up and actually talk about it.
He did a great job, except for that little medium jacket he had on. Goodness gracious. Bump yourself up a size. Was that from college or something? Good Lord. Can you extend the back a little bit, a little tight on your bump? Goodness. I'm a fashion consultant saying that, yes. 6-button double-breasted, a little outdated. Go ahead.
To the Cowboys. See. In week one, their offense looked dynamic. Dak threw for 400 yards, 4 touchdowns, which led to 35 points. One of those touchdowns was a 21-yard connection with Amari Cooper. Amari had some strong words about his team's offensive outlook. Listen.
We're just lethal. Everybody can make plays. Everybody has their own style. And so, I mean, it's a good thing for our offense, definitely. And, defenses should watch out.
Nick, can this Cowboys offense really be lethal this season, or does it depend on what Dak did in game one?
Well, I think those two things are inextricably tied together. Yes, it can be lethal if Dak looks anything like he did in week one. If Dak goes to first half of 2018 season Dak Prescott, then the offense, even with Zeke, would be pedestrian. If he is second half of 2018 season Dak Prescott, the offense can be pretty good. If he's game one of 2019 Dak Prescott, the offense can be awesome. I mean, I have been skeptical of Dak, well known, because I was so high on him after his rookie season and then so repeatedly disappointed in year 2 and the first half of year 3. But he started off year 4 as well as any quarterback literally has started a season league history. He had a game that's only been done by 4 guys. He had 400 yards passing. He had a perfect passer rating. He had 4 touchdowns. I couldn't count a mistake he made. So of course, Amari should be bullish. And last year at the beginning of the year, the story was, man, who are his weapons? Tavon Austin, who the Rams foolishly spent a top 10 pick on years ago, trying to turn him into some do-everything guy when, with respect, he's kind of a do-nothing guy. He was going to be the speed guy on the team. They had no tight end. They were figuring out who their number 1 receiver was going to be. Now it's like, oh, You've got a blue chipper in Amari. You've got a speed guy in Michael Gallup, who we knew his rookie season, as I think a third-round pick would take some time. But if he and Dak got on the same page, he could add a deep threat. And now, instead of MC Cole Beasley, you've got Randall Cobb, who is a true professional slot receiver in this league. You have all of that. You have Witten doing his 3-yard button hooks, great offensive line, and Zeke back. Those are all the elements you need to be a top-flight offense if you have a top-flight quarterback. So the answer to your question is yes. Yes, they can be a dynamic offense if Dak continues to play anything like we saw week 1.
And I'm not going to. Don't get this mixed up. I'm going to talk about Kellen Moore, and I'm going to talk about the same type of effect that Sean McVay had on Jared Goff. Because with these quarterbacks are peculiar guys. And sometimes you hear a certain voice that unlocks the magic to that quarterback. Jared Goff was a different quarterback as soon as Sean McVay, we saw them on the field. Is that the case with Dak? And his normal growth would have been in year number 3 with all the experience he's had. He's going to grow anyway. But now having that voice of Kellen Moore, former quarterback, John Kitna in his ear, I believe that could be special. I heard Trent Dilford yesterday talking on Colin's show, talking about, man, these guys right here will be great teachers of quarterbacks. People don't know them now. People aren't giving them credit now. So that's something that I'm watching because Dak looked more comfortable with a limited Zeke than any other time that I've seen him under center. His ability to be able to drive the football down the field and now to have the type of control where I don't like these plays, I want these plays in. Typically, you see the best out of that quarterback. So let's look and see if Kellen Moore and Dak, that combination, Jenna, if this is able to unlock the magic of Dak because he is a better thrower, he's a stronger thrower, and willing to take more chances and have better anticipation than any other Dak I've seen
But
before.
I don't understand. Why did he look more comfortable? Is it that he had more time in the pocket? Is it that Kellen Moore was calling better plays for him? Is it that it's this third year? What was it that made him look more comfortable than we saw last year, even without having Zeke at 100%?
Yeah, I don't know if Nick's going to agree with me, but it's a combination of things. He started so many football games. He was going to be better. I don't care who was going to coach him because experience becomes being in situations. Carson talked about it, being in situations over and over again. And let's not forget those last 8 games of the regular season when he had Amari Cooper, man, they were special passing the ball. That was the best passing we had seen, Dak. Now Michael Gallup takes that next step. Randall Cobb is a serious NFL receiver. He just happens to play slot. He started outside for Green Bay. He's got elite route running. He's got elite speed in the game. So now, from what they're giving Dak to work with, if the system was still the same, they still should be able to do more in it. And Sanjay Lal, for my final point, told me they need to improve one area of the passing game. That was deep passing, the accuracy and the timing of it. And we can see in week number 1 it seems to be paying dividends, Nick.
And it's possible the opponent helped as well. The Giants are rebuilding defense. But I'm gonna steal half a point from you and half a point from our friend Skip Bayless because I think there's one other thing here, which is even myself, who's been skeptical of Dak, I've given him credit not only for toughness, leadership, availability, but he does also seem to have something you want in a quarterback, which is the it factor, which is the moment's not too big for him. In fact, he didn't play his best football in the biggest moments. Fourth quarter numbers very good, comeback numbers very good, the playoff game numbers, particularly that his rookie year against Green Bay, he was sensational. Even last year in the playoffs, he was good. So you have that on one side of it. That's from Skip. Your point yesterday. He had just turned down $100 million. There was an element of pressure on him in Sunday's game, unlike any other regular season game, where it is, man, I could get hurt. What if I have a 3-interception game? We lose. So all of a sudden, that it factor that we have seen in fourth quarters and big moments and big games in the playoffs, maybe activated a bit. I know we're now almost into the metaphysical, but activated a bit in the week 1 game because he was taking a huge gamble on himself, and he played as well as I've seen him play in the pros since that playoff game against Green Bay. That's the other element of this, that if that's true, that is one of the reasons why you pay this guy. Because what you want from your quarterback and to stay in the division, the one thing we don't know about Carson Wentz is how does he play in those biggest moments? Because we haven't seen him play in a playoff game. Is a quarterback who not only stays as good as he is in the biggest moments, but gets better. We've seen that from Dak throughout his career. No matter how skeptical you are of him, you saw it again in week 1.
And, man, he's one heck of a leader. It seems like the guys really like him, and he gets those teams ready to go. All right, take a break. Coming up, John Gruden, ready to move on from all the drama in Oakland. That's next. This is First Things
Not the
First.
same type of leader as Dak. No.
Back here, First Things First. We're now joined by former All-Pro running back Brian Westbrook. Hey,
What's up,
Brian.
sir? Good to see
morning.
you.
Good morning.
Nice
Also
to
on the
see
south side of Philly, nicknamed Bri Bri.
On the south side, you already know. Only on the south side.
I will not call you Bri Bri, as
Thank
I
you.
learned that is not what you want to hear. We'll get to the Raiders without AB in just a second, but first, just one Bri. Northern Iowa receiver Deon McShane making the tough catch, rolls off the defender, still good, still in play. That's a touchdown.
Play the whistle. If he's down, he's down, but he was obviously not down. Great play by the receiver right there.
Best moment for Northern Iowa sports since they upset Kansas in the NCAA tournament a decade ago.
A little Monday Night Football. Deshaun Watson picking up big yardage here. Isn't quite satisfied. Goes airborne for 6. Everyone held their collective breath in Houston.
Man, and he got walloped on the final pass he threw of the game, the touchdown to Kenny Stills. He's already in the medical tent. It's week 1.
I don't need my quarterback doing this. I just don't. I'll take the ball at the 3-yard line. I don't need him doing this. I just
Does
don't.
he know he drove a bus last year, 800 miles because of punctured lung?
No, this is a mistake.
No, he's a winner now. Underrated.
More from this game. Check out Will Fuller as he makes a tough catch.
They missed this last year. They missed this deep threat last year. Will Fuller, speed down the field. You can't do anything about speed in the NFL. Will Fuller has it.
No, do you think that they have enough firepower? They also added Kenny Stills. Man, they're the team to beat.
That's right.
They're in the AFC South, Nick. Huh?
One of those many teams, I guess, playing for second place since the Patriots already won the conference.
Oh, absolutely. Write it down. Chris Carter said it.
Chris
Carter. Yeah, number 7. Yep.
To the other Monday night game, Brian Westbrook. Raiders taking the win against Denver without Antonio Brown. 24-16 your final on that one. Derek Carr, very good in his season debut. 22 of 26 for 259 yards. Wasn't sacked once after going down 51 times last year. Rookie Josh Jacobs added 113 yards of total offense and 2 touchdowns. After the game, John Gruden was asked about what could have been with AB. Take a listen.
As much as people talk about it, I mean, my God. I mean, I feel like someone's smashing my temple on the side of the head. Get over it, man. It's over. You know, we were good the preseason without him. You know, we're going to be fine without him. And we wish him the best. But, you know, we gave it a shot. And now New England gets their turn. Good luck to them. But I just can't, I can't deal with it anymore, really. Sorry.
Not such a heartfelt good luck to the Patriots. But, Brian, do you think Gruden rebounds from everything that went down with Antonio Brown this offseason, preseason?
You know, it got really, really ugly in Oakland, and he looks terrible for the way that he handled the Antonio Brown stuff, from being a disciplinarian type of coach to really not disciplining anyone in this situation. I think he looked terrible last year with the Khalil Mack trade, looked terrible with the Amari Cooper trade. But I'll tell you this, CC, winning cures everything. And when you win a couple games, and they're not the best team in the AFC West, so I don't think they're winning that division, but when you win a couple games, that changes things. That changes the way that people think. That changes the way that you think about yourself. And if you can get the same Derek Carr that you got last night, that didn't get sacked at all, that you can protect, that you can get the ball out quickly, the pre-leg injury Derek Carr that on that first drive went 10 plays, 72 yards, almost a perfect drive. They had a penalty there, no negative plays. If you can get that guy, then I think you have a chance, especially with John Gruden, because to me, he called a very good game last night. And I know he called a very good game. He got the ball out quickly. He made sure that he understood, Derek Carr understood everything that was going on. If you get that type of play, they have some guys on that offense that can play. Waller is a good player. Tyrell Williams is a big-time player that no one really saw coming from San Diego. Then the other you talk about Josh Jacobs as a running back, another running force. And so they have some good players on that team. John Gruden has to be able to harness it, and I think winning helps all of that.
You know, every NFL team's got good players by default, by hook or crook. Yeah, they draft some, they get some free agents because the salary cap, not only do we have a hard salary cap, but we got a hard bottom. So they got to spend up to the bottom of the cap. But I got a question for you. Who's your favorite coach you ever played for?
Andy Reid.
And can you give me some of the characteristics of Andy Reid? It's got nothing to do with Gruden, but give me some of the characteristics of Andy Reid, why you be on national TV saying he's your favorite coach.
He's disciplined, detail-oriented. He's going to hold you accountable, and he's going to do the right thing. As a head coach, he's not going to throw you underneath the bus.
And the other thing that Brian won't mention, Andy Reid is into your life. Andy Reid is into the things you're into. Andy Reid takes time to get to know his players and their families to make some type of connection. Now, Andy Reid, he's not known as a disciplinarian, but he's a no-nonsense guy. He will give you a second chance, but if you cross him, you lie to him, he'll cut your throat off. Like, that's the way Andy Reid is. That's why you got so much respect for him. Right now, if you needed something, could you contact Andy Reid?
Absolutely.
John Gruden, you never hear about any former players saying anything about, oh, I reached out to him, or he never, because he don't have good relationships with his former players. So, yes, if we stay on the field, I do believe John is a competent play caller. Yes, does he know how to groom quarterbacks? No, he hadn't groomed any. I'm glad to see Carr was playing well last night. Can John call plays in the NFL game? Absolutely. But as far as cultivating relationships, creating a culture where guys in the locker room will play hard for you, that's just not John Gruden. John Gruden's got to make up his mind. Do I want to be a TV star or do I want to be an NFL football coach? Because in trying to be a disciplinarian, you can't do both of those things. And that's what I've seen since he's come out of retirement.
And here's where Gruden's, to me, really undercut his own cause. And you wouldn't think this for someone who had a decade of media experience. He's had the wrong messaging. At every fork in the road when it came to messaging, he's chosen the wrong side of the fork. And by that, I mean this. When you trade Khalil Mack, listen, Coach, it's a super easy answer. Listen, guys, we know how great he was, and obviously, while he's out here getting strip sacks, we are going to look bad. You know why? Because our return from that are two guys who are in college football right now. So you guys can judge it now. We will judge that trade once we actually have the players we got for him.
He actually had better things to say about AB than Khalil Mack. Accused Khalil Mack of not wanting to be there.
Right. All you have to say with Khalil Mack is this. We love Khalil. We know how great of a player he was, given where our team is, given financial restrictions, and given the fact that we never thought you could get 2 first-round picks for a player.
Yes.
We made the move. You guys can say it's crazy. I would ask you to pay me and the team the respect of evaluate it when we have the return.
Be patient. It would have been great.
Right, because you didn't get player for player. Same thing with Amari Cooper. What's the messaging need to be on Antonio Brown? The moment he gets there, listen, obviously, things happen in Pittsburgh. We're going to leave that in Pittsburgh. But we believe this is a great player. We cannot believe the price he was available for. 31 teams in the league would have traded 3 and a 5 for Antonio Brown. If they say they wouldn't, they're lying to you. With that said, we have a way we're going to do things here in Oakland. He has said he is down for it. He has said he's going to sign up for it. I'm going to take him at his word. And the moment the nonsense started, then he needs to be the person, not Mike Mayock when he's finally beaten down like geez Louise, that says, hey, Antonio has broken his commitment. Because of that, he's going to be fined. Instead, he took the wrong choice every time. He, even on the phone call with him, even after he threatened to beat up the GM.
Even after he left, Nick, after he left, he still called misunderstood. We wish him all the best.
Every time. And so my question is, for Gruden, when we say can he fix things, what is he trying to be perceived as? Is he trying to be perceived as a new age player's friend coach? Is he trying to be perceived as a disciplinarian?
I love you, brother. I love you, brother.
Right.
That's all he can say.
He pats him on the back and gives him a little. You know what? I'm going to push back just a little bit because there's a different way to coach different players. There are some players where you say, I need to get on them, I need to kick them in the butt and say, get down the field and do your job. There's other players you need to say, hey, man, this is your job. Just go ahead and do it, and they'll be fine. John Gruden, on that phone call with AB, he said, I understand what you're going through. And AB is a special case. There are certain things that you're able to say to guys like AB and T.O. and Chad Johnson that you can't say to other guys.
That's fine.
You have to treat them differently.
That's totally fine. But then you can't, no half measures then. Then you know what you need to do with AB? You need to call him into the office and say, hey, Antonio, here's the $54,000 of fines you've accumulated. We're ripping it up. You know why? We love you. We understand. And then after, when he reacts negatively to the fine, and you tell him on the phone, we just want you here, you got to go to Mayock and say, you are not fining him for that. Because you have to recognize, if he is a special case, that he's also a bit of a head case. And if you fine him again, it's going to go haywire. So you either have to say we have a standard. They tried to have the middle road of we're going to put our arms around you, but we're still going to fine you. And that does not work.
He wanted to win games, and when you want to win games, you got to have special players in that locker room. He wanted AB bad. Obviously, AB was bad for that culture there. That's why they ended up getting rid of him.
AB is a special player, and one day we're going to make room for him in the Hall of Fame. I've played with 9 teammates in the Hall, and none of them on any coaching staff I was with would have given them the grace to threaten one or the other, either a teammate or employee. Okay, so we can make excuses for Gruden, but on that, when he threatened Mike Mayock, when he called him what he called him, all right, when he called him that, it's over with.
It's out. He's out.
Like, it's got to be. And at that point, Gruden, since then, he's been nothing but a failure. Showed nothing but weakness. That's why AB walked all over him.
All right, let's keep it there. Brian, we'll see you in a little bit. Coming up, are the Texans relying too heavily on Deshaun Watson? That's next on First Things First. All right, guys, time for stories to start your morning. Cowboys are reportedly working to complete a deal with quarterback Dak Prescott, quote, sooner rather than later. A 400-yard passing game at 4 touchdowns and a perfect passer rating will certainly give Dak some leverage. Nick, how important is it for the Cowboys to get this deal done quickly?
Well, to quote Marlo Stanfield, Dak keeps playing like this, price of the brick going up. So for the Cowboys, they want to get it done quickly. Marlo Stanfield, character from the greatest television show ever, The Wire. I try to work that in every once in a while. I've said it a few times before.
Okay.
Do it or don't. I got places to be. Some other things. No. This happened.
You're right, Jenna.
This happened this century, Jenna. Not the point. Point is, for Dak, it's important. But I thought he was going to get it done before week 1. He didn't. My guess is it gets done before week 2.
Yeah, don't get too high, bro. Let's get that money. Let's get it signed now. Like, you played well last week. That's enough guarantees. Let's get these young players signed so Jerry and them can move on. Jerry buy another company this week after he give you $120 million.
All right, on to the Browns and Baker Mayfield, a season opener to forget on Sunday. That after a 30-point loss to the Tennessee Titans. Browns head coach Freddie Kitchens said he won't overreact. Cris, you agree with Kitchens that the team shouldn't overreact to one loss?
Well, no, you can't overreact, but they need to overcoach this week. When you look at the lack of discipline the team had, not only 18 penalties, but 6 of those personal fouls. Like, you can't have that many 15-yard penalties in a game. So, no, I'm not going to overreact to the media. They've already overreacted. After the game, they overreacted. In the sound bites, they overreacted. So, but overreact as far as coaching up the little small things, because as a football team, those are the glue that keep you together in winning games. They have to learn how to win together, Nick.
Listen, 15 teams are 0-1 right now. You got 15 teams 1-0, and then 2 teams have a tie. So, no, you shouldn't overreact to 0-1.
Yeah, man, you threw me off for a minute there. I was like,
15? What happened to the other team that tie?
Yeah, a specialist at man.
And then I said, wait, 2 teams tied?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I promise I'm right.
One game?
No, I'm right. But they should panic at 0-2.
Ooh.
So, listen, whatever you need to do to get buttoned up to be ready to beat the Jets on Monday Night Football, you do it. I don't think they should overreact either, but offensive line issues, it's a little bit of concern is a proper reaction, because that was the concern going into the season. It remains the concern even if Greg Robinson doesn't get himself kicked out of week 2 the way he did week 1.
And maybe OBJ can set his watch to the right time, because on his watch, I know it costs $35,000.
$350,000.
Yeah, $350,000, but they didn't have the right time to start the game.
Yeah, I'd blame it on time zones, but Cleveland and New York are in the same time zone. Didn't help them.
Well, okay.
On to the Texans.
Someone fed that one to me. It wasn't good.
The team came up just short in their Monday night loss to the Saints, but you can't blame Deshaun Watson. He was electric, throwing for 268 yards and 3 touchdowns in the air, 1 on the ground, despite being under duress most of the game. See, what did you take away from Watson's performance
amazing.
last night?
His savvy in the pocket, getting away. He was under duress from the beginning. And I know they made the trade for Laramie Tunsil, but they need to make another trade to shore up the right side of the line.
They're out of picks.
Yeah, Santrell Henderson, man, trade him something. They got something the Texans can give him up. But I do believe he's one of the most underrated players that we have in the league. And you can see with Will Fuller being back, DeAndre Hopkins is one of the best in the league. And on a given day, you could argue, is he better than Julio? Is he better than any of the other receivers? Man, because he's a phenomenal receiver. I believe Kenny Stills is underrated and is a quality receiver, will add, but you got to be able to protect him. I mean, he's a warrior, but he took some shots last night on the touchdown run, up in the air, landing on his back. So this is the team to beat in the AFC South, to me, with Andrew Luck's sudden retirement, Jacksonville without Nick Foles, the Tennessee Titans. How long can they keep that up with Mariota?
If he stays healthy.
They got to be able to keep him healthy if they're going to get in the playoffs, Nick.
I feel so badly for Deshaun Watson, man. This guy was one of the greatest college football players I've ever seen, with one of the greatest college football resumes I've ever seen. I know him a little bit. Our times in Houston didn't overlap, but I know him from being down there and visiting down there since he's been down there. He's a great young man and an outstanding player. And he is just getting beat to hell every game of his career. His first season in the NFL, he's sacked like 4.5, 5 times per game over his very brief but brilliant tenure in that first season before he unluckily tears his ACL non-contact in practice. Last year, the most sacked player in the NFL. This year, through 1 week, the most sacked player in the NFL. Sacked 6 times, hit another 11. And when he's not getting, go ahead.
And it's one of the better athletes that we have. When you talk about how many times how many times did he avoid getting hit?
And I know some people are like, well, he runs into some of these sacks. He avoids 3 times as many sacks with his athleticism as he runs into by trying to scramble around for extra time. But that's not the only place the Texans don't do him right. Scott Katzmeyer had this stat. I could not believe it. Last night was the 5th time in Deshaun Watson's career he's thrown a touchdown pass to take a lead in the 4th quarter and lost the game. It's happened to him 5 times in 25 career starts. It has happened to Tom Brady 4 times in 310 career starts.
Wow.
It happened to Peyton Manning 4 times in 293 career starts. Joe Montana 5 times in his 215 career
and
starts.
Deshaun's?
5 times in 25 career starts. For these other guys, it happens about 1.5% of the games played. For Deshaun, it's at 20% of games played.
What does it mean?
It means he brings you back in the 4th quarter with a touchdown pass, no less, and then the defense, the allegedly great Texans defense, can't hold on to it. A Texans defense that, by the way, J.J. Watt's going to be in the Hall of Fame with you one day, no question about it, an all-time great. But J.J. had the first game of his career last night. No tackles, no sacks, no quarterback hits. Another way to say no impact. Look, Jadeveon Clowney, the overrated, plays when he wants to. Jadeveon Clowney, Texans defense seemed to miss him. He, by the way, in Seattle this weekend had a sack, had a quarterback hit, had a pass deflection, made some impact. So listen, I love Deshaun. And DeAndre is as good as Cris says, and he's got a great receiving core. And I know you like the little 1-2 punch of Hyde and Duke Johnson.
Absolutely. I think that they're better than Lamar Miller as one going against, if Bill O'Brien utilized them. Carlos Hyde is underrated between the tackles, and Duke Johnson adds a little pop to the offense coming out of the backfield who can also run the ball.
But this is, of course, they should win the division. They have the best quarterback in the division by a country mile. They have the best receiver in the division by a country mile. They in theory, were supposed to have at least a competent front 7 defensively, and for them to blow an 11-point second-half lead and then to blow what were they up to? A 1-point lead? Yeah, a 1-point lead with 37 seconds left, kicking off. It's just more of the same where Deshaun's going to have to be brilliant each and every week for this team to have a chance, and I hope he stays healthy for the full 16.
Who do the Texans have next week?
The Texans next week, that's a good question, Jenna. They have the Jacksonville Jaguars, so it's not like they're going to be rushing the passer at all. They beat up Patrick Mahomes this week.
Yeah, I got to call Coach Parcells because Romeo Cannell's his good friend. He always tells me, man, Romeo drove me to work for 28 years. I said, you need to teach him some 2-minute defense.
Yeah, wasn't great.
Okay?
Wasn't great.
Jam the slots, Coach.
Romeo.
Maybe it was only a 1.5-minute commute, so he couldn't quite get to it.
Oh, Jenna, I liked it. That was good. That was good. You shouldn't laugh that hard at your own joke, but that was funny.
Much more First Things First right after this.
Much more funny, Jenna Wolfe.
I like that. It was a real short commute. That was good.
Back here with former Eagles All-Pro running back Brian Westbrook talking current Eagle and your former teammate Desean Jackson. DJX back in Philly. Didn't take Carson Wentz long to get him comfortable either. Desean posted 8 catches for 154 yards, 2 touchdowns. After the game, he talked about the homecoming that was the team's season-opening win.
I just know just the reunion of me coming back and just what I mean to the city and, what the city means to me, being in them green colors. And just being a part of this organization, this family is just something special for me.
It felt great to, to have him out here, obviously creating the dynamic element that he does for our offense. And then I know the city's pretty fired up to have him back here. And so to do that at home, I know for him means a lot, and for this team to get us going the way he did, that was huge for us.
All right, Brian, how much better is this Eagles offense with Desean Jackson in it?
Well, Desean Jackson makes everybody on that team better, especially Carson Wentz. When you look at last season, Carson Wentz only had 2 touchdowns of over 20 yards. This past weekend, he had a 53-yarder to Desean Jackson and a 51-yarder to Desean Jackson. He has an effect on everything. A lot of people talk about the run game, you opening up with the guy taking over the top because the safeties have to respect that, and that's absolutely true. That's going to help Miles Sanders and Jordan Howard, but it's also going to help the receivers. On Deshaun's last touchdown, Nelson Aguilar is streaking wide open down the middle of the field. So defenses will begin to say, hey, we got to pick our poison. Do we want Desean Jackson to beat us outside, or we want to take our risk on Nelson Aguilar? And again, Nelson is a very good player. He's not Desean Jackson, but that's a Desean Jackson effect. He's going to open things up for the run game, for the pass game. And don't forget, Zach Ertz across the middle, working the middle of the field. Desean Jackson opens up everything for everyone. Another thing about Desean that no one really talks about is he's a great route runner. He can get open early against man-to-man. He catches the ball well. He tracks the ball well. He does all the small things that you want a receiver to do, and he has a speed still at 32. Impressive start for Wentz and Desean Jackson.
And he's a popular teammate everywhere where he goes. You saw it in Tampa, you saw it in Philly the first time around, and I think that for a team that last year seemed some of the reports had something of a divided locker room by the end of the season, I think that can be helpful. But where he's most helpful is exactly what you're saying. He has been, since he came into this league, one of the most dynamic one-play scoring threats we have in football. As far as you talk about all the time, most 60-yard touchdowns in NFL history. He just this weekend passed Randy for the second most 50-yard touchdowns in NFL history. Wow. He'd probably have that record, too, if he didn't set the ball down at the goal line a couple times early in his career on those punt returns.
I'll take one of those touchdowns for me, too. I'll take that. Thank you.
But the most notable thing for Philly, and Desean is part of this, but not all of it, from Sunday, was Carson Wentz on third downs. Carson Wentz in year 2, when he almost won the MVP, was out of this world on third downs. A 124 quarterback rating, 14 touchdowns, 3 picks, and a lot of those were third and longs. On Sunday, 12 of 13 on third down, 3 touchdowns, a perfect quarterback rating. His rookie year in year 3, Wentz mediocre on third down. Similarly, rookie year in year 3, Wentz was bad on those deep passes you talked about, balls traveling more than 20 yards in the air. Year 2, and again, tiny sample size, on Sunday, excellent on those types of passes. If the deep ball and third downs are back for Philadelphia, then Carson is back to being the guy he was in year 2, which was the guy through 7/8 of the season was your league MVP.
And the reason why I like D-Jack added to the lineup is because when I'm trying to put together my wide receiving crew, which is going to include some guys coming out of the backfield, I like to look at a basketball team. I like to have a point guard. I'd like to have a guy that can either set things up, and it don't have to be a small guy, all right? But what they have in Zach Ertz to me is their power forward or scoring option, all right? He's the favorite target. Even teammates talked about Carson Wentz in their relationship. Nelson Aguilar, he is a good substitution guy, role guy, can run the wing and everything. We know that Alshon, we know he's going to post up and move the chains, all right? Dallas Goedert's underrated. He's a big, ginormous. If there was a center, and we're bringing back the center, he's going to be that. And that doesn't include J.J. Whiteside, who is going to emerge. They didn't even have to use him. But with Doug Peterson, when he decided to use Desean in the slot, because if I'm going to have him as a deep threat, I can't always have him outside the numbers. He put him in the slot, which has only been a few times he's played in the slot in his career. He can get on top of the safety faster. Nick, you pointed out the third down. If Carson's able to be special on third down, this is a dangerous team. And one of the reasons why I like Desean more now, I've always liked him, but he's always been a guy that's going to be a little diva. He's going to be a little late. He's going to be a little chippy in the press conference. But since he's gone to Washington and gone to Tampa, he's not that way. He's made his money. He's a good locker room guy now. He participated in every single practice in training camp the first time in his career. So not only with that broken finger that we didn't see any effects of that, he's a different person now coming back to Philadelphia. And I know, Bryant, you understand that coming back into that locker room and what it means.
Mature. And I saw when Deshaun first came into the league, immature young kid, just like a lot of us. He wasn't no different. But now he's a mature guy, has kids. He's moved on with his life. He's much more settled. But I think wide receivers are divas all the time. That's just what wide receivers do. But he has an effect on the play caller as well. He opens things up for Doug. Now Doug can be much more free. There were 3 games, including the Eagles game, that I thought the deep ball impacted. The Packers game, the first game of the season, the deep ball to Valdez-Scantling, that opened things up for that offense. Yeah. Now they can roll the ball down the field a little bit more. The Baltimore game with Lamar Jackson, throwing the ball down the field, deep ball opens things up. Same thing with the Eagles. They had nothing going on before that deep ball to Deshaun Jackson. It changes the complexion of the football game. This helps Doug Peterson be a better coach.
Nick, that deep ball is like the slam dunk in basketball.
That's right.
Like when you might be not being able to knock one down, a guy gets a steal, comes down with a dunk, and the team gets energized. That's what the Eagles have now.
Nick, you brought up how Deshaun Jackson is making Carson Wentz a better quarterback, especially on third downs and whatnot. But Carson Wentz is pretty much doing the same thing to Deshaun Jackson. This isn't the same player we saw in Tampa.
Well, no.
At all. I mean, it's almost opened up something in him as the player.
A lot of us, well, I'll speak for myself. When he went to Tampa, I was like, man, this is going to be just what the doctor ordered for Jameis. We thought that, he and Jameis, he is a compliment for Mike Evans with Jameis Winston, who in college showed the ability to be great with the deep ball, that he would be awesome there. What happened was he was great with Ryan Fitzpatrick, never got on the same page as Jameis, and it looked like his career at age 31, 30 was going the way a lot of guys do. And now one game doesn't make a resurgence, but it's one hell of a start. And you mentioned how when those plays came, 3rd and 10s, touchdowns when they scored them, but also for Philly, they were dead. They looked dead in the water,
That's
man.
Right.
People were tearing up their eliminator pool tickets, having picked Philly to beat Washington, down 17-0. And if they lose that game, man, Dallas looks great. Who do we have this week? Oh, Sunday Night Football at a desperate Atlanta team. You're 0-1. All of a sudden, you're like, man, played Atlanta in the playoffs a couple years ago, came down to 1st and goal at the 8, played it in the first game of the season last year, came down to 1st and goal at the 8. They played us tough. We got to go to their building. Not that they now can afford to lose that game, but going into that game with a comeback victory as opposed to blowing a game where you're a 10-point favorite against Washington feels so different.
Thank you for listening to the First Things First podcast. Remember, leave us a review and tell us what you think. Subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts and catch us on FS1 Monday through Friday, 6:30 a.m. Eastern. For Cris Carter and Nick Wright, I'm Jenna Wolfe. So long, everybody.